How useful are spreadsheets for keeping track of your model train collection? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Welcome to Model Building Tips. I'm doing this episode by viewer request as several of you have asked about the spreadsheets that I've been using to keep track of my model train inventory. So I'm going to go through those and talk about how I set them up and how I use them. I use Microsoft Excel for the spreadsheets, and before I get into it, I just want to say that I am by no means an expert in Excel. I really don't actually know the program very well at all. I was able to learn a few things to be able to set this up. I do have an IT background. Many years ago, I used to work with databases, so I do have, a familiarity with that kind of thing. This is not that sophisticated, but I think it's good enough for my purposes of getting an inventory and getting some numbers. I have to give a shout out to my friend Mark for kind of getting me into the spreadsheet idea. He said he was doing it, and I thought, well, maybe I could do that too. So thanks, Mark. You kind of sent me down a rabbit hole, but it's been a good rabbit hole. I think it's been really useful. This whole process has been kind of eye-opening, and it's also made it just so much easier for me to keep track of things. The first spreadsheet that I created was the one for Nscale locomotives. Once I had that, I cloned it and then changed it around and turned it into a rolling stock spreadsheet. And then once I had those, I basically just copied those and changed the data to make the Nscale spreadsheets. I should mention that I'm using Excel's table format to store my data rather than just plugging the information into regular rows and columns. And the reason I'm doing that is for sorting. As I understand it, and like I said, I'm not an Excel expert, but as I understand it, you have a better ability to sort and keep your data kind of all together if you're using a table. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a column for railroad like I do and a column for the car number like I do, or the locomotive number, and you wanted to sort the railroad, but you didn't have it in a table, it could potentially scramble the data so that the railroad reporting mark would no longer match the number because it would only sort the one column. So if you put it in a table, it sorts the entire table. So that way your data stays together and makes sense. And that's why I'm using the table format.
All right, so let's take a look at this spreadsheet a little closer. So I've set up a few columns. This is the locomotive spreadsheet, by the way, in case I didn't already say that. I've got the model. I've got these sorted by model. So you can see there's like AC 4400s are up here, then AEM 7, B23-7, and so on. Basically just alphabetized. You could sort it any way you want it, and you can resort it with Excel if you want to, but I just did it this way for my purposes. Then over here I have railroad. You can see SP, Mark, SP, Santa Fe, Cotton Belt, etc. And then the road number of the unit. And then I have whether or not it has DCC in it. That's just a yes, no. Then the brand, like the scale trains, Atlas, Rapido, more Atlas, and so on. The status, this one is, these are just my own categories. RTR basically means ready to run, like it just came out of the box. So these are scale trains units up at the top here, these AC 4400s. So these are basically stock, ready to go right out of the box. Some of them are new in box, like this AEM 7 says new in box. That basically means I haven't done anything to that model yet. It's just as it came from the factory. Finished means that I've worked on it. So this B23-7 is a Santa Fe that I've actually detailed and painted and weathered, and it's got DCC and sound, and that means finished. Work in progress. This is actually Cotton Belt 7787. This is one of the consist build units. So this is still a work in progress. That's why it says WIP. And so I have some different categories. I also have one called special, which is basically models that are going to be used for like holidays or things like Nicole's Hogwarts Express train. And then I also have a couple that are designated as parts, meaning that I have no intention of doing anything with those models and just using them as spare parts. There's only a couple of those. And then I have a notes column, which has just some different things in it. Like I have up on these top ones, the scale trains ones that these have Loc-Sound 5s in them. This one here has a Loc-Sound Select. And here's one like this Atlas B39-8 SP 8033. And then I have unnumbered unit, number tentative. That means that this is one of those models that is painted, but doesn't actually have a number on it. So I've designated it as SP 8033, but that doesn't mean I've actually put decals on it. So just notes to myself for different things. about what I'm doing with the models. The era, most of these are going to say 1990s because that's what I'm doing mostly. There's a few exceptions, like here's one 2000s, that's a BNSF unit, 1970s. So there's a few that are, oddballs to me. But again, you could, do anything you wanted with the data you're storing. It's kind of whatever you want to do with the spreadsheet. Then I have remaining effort. So low would be like these raw scale trains units that are just out of the box. They might need to have the couplers changed and the coupler height fixed, might need to be weathered, but other than that, they're pretty much done. Moderate means that they probably need some detailing, maybe a DCC install, maybe some lights, but not a full repaint. High means that it's probably like this is one of the consist build units. So this is basically a complete gut job, repaint, install DCC, redo the lights, everything basically. None is like for a finished model. So this one that's above the consist unit, the Santa Fe B23-7 is already finished. So it doesn't need any work. And so those are just my categories. Then I have type, which is either going to be diesel, electric, or steam. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Then I have a box column. And as you can see, this one's a little bit sparse in this particular spreadsheet because a lot of my locomotives are not stored in numbered boxes. So if you remember the old box of the month show, I had those file boxes that come from Staples or one of the office supply stores. And they're designed mostly to hold papers, but I put HO scale trains in there or, whatever. And then what I've been doing is when I inventoried them, I started to number what box they were in. And that way, if I need to find a particular model, I can go, like this particular, like B32-8W8H, which is a Amtrak California unit, is in box 50. So I could, if I want to find that unit, I can find it easily. Now, a lot of my diesels are stored loose, meaning that they are in their own boxes that they came in, but they're just kind of sitting around in cabinets or stacked on the floor or whatever. So I haven't put them all in boxes. That's why a lot of this is bare here. And then this last column is a keep or sell or a maybe. And that was just for my own reference to try to, I've been trying to whittle down my collection a little bit. And I've gotten down now to the point where most of them say keep. So it gets a little harder. It's like the more you sell, the more you like the ones you have left, and it gets harder to let go of them. So anyway, but that's basically, the idea with all of this stuff. One of the cool things about Excel that I've learned is that it has functions. And the function that I've used the most is called COUNTIF. That allows you to take the data in a column and make a count or a sum based on the criteria that you set. So I can say count if the criteria equals boxcar. So that allows me to get a total of all the boxcars, for example. And I can take those functions and plug them in down at the bottom of the spreadsheet, and that way I know how many boxcars I have, how many flat cars I have, how many tank cars, etc. That's been really helpful. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, I've made use of Excel's counting functions to get some aggregate information about the collection. So for example, I have 58 finished locomotives. I have 58 ready to run locomotives, 76 are works in progress, 58 new in the box, 3 special, and 2 for parts. In terms of remaining effort, no effort would be 63, low effort 68, moderate effort 74, and high effort 50. That's still a lot, so I may reevaluate of how many of these I actually want to hang on to. Then over here I've got 222 diesels, 30 steam locomotives, and 3 electrics. I've also counted up the railroads that I have the most of. Not surprisingly, SP is the king with 92. Cotton Belt, I have 10. Rio Grande, 11. 22 Union Pacific, 28 Santa Fe, and then some others, including 15 Amtrak engines. Then the keep is 244. I may need to reevaluate that. Maybe is 9 and sell is 2. So, but like I said earlier, the more I sell, the more I like the ones that I have left, because it's like I've already sold the ones that I'm not that into. So it's like, gets a little harder. And then this other thing over here is interesting. Product reviews are all well and good, but it's like, what is Dan actually spending his money on? 91 Athearns.
38 Atlas, 28 Katos, 22 Proto 2000s that I still have, 37 from Nscale trains. And so that should tell you something. You know, the rest of the stuff is not as many by a long shot. So, you know, I didn't realize I had that much Athearn, but I do. So it's kind of interesting. So in the rolling stock spreadsheet, I did it a little differently. For one thing, other than changing the columns around a little bit, I sorted it by railroad and car number. And then I also used this model designation over here a little differently. So, for example, if the railroad uses car classes like Santa Fe, you know, here's a BX37, BX57, I put that information in here. If it's a railroad that doesn't do that, then I just put a more generic term like boxcar or refrigerator. In the railroad column, of course, is you know, the railroad's reporting marks. That's pretty self-explanatory. The number column has the car number. Then I have another column for whether or not it's lighted. This would apply mostly to passenger cars or cabooses, not so much freight cars. I do have a DCC column in the rolling stock spreadsheet as well, but again, that mostly applies to lighted cars, like some Athearn cabooses and whatnot. Then I have the brand over here. So, you know, Athearn, Atlas, Exactrail, Walthers, whatever it is. And then, again, I have a status column, just like in the Locomotive spreadsheet. These are slightly different, but very similar. This, like new in box would be a car that I haven't touched yet. Finished would be one that I've weathered and pretty much is ready for the layout. WIP means work in progress. That's one that needs something. Not necessarily a full repaint, but probably needs some detailing or something. So there's a few different ones of those. And then I also have a green dot column here, which my green dot inspection is making sure that the car's coupler height is correct, that it has Katie scale couplers on it, that the wheel gauge is correct, that it has metal wheels, and that it doesn't wobble. If it's past all of those things and I've put the green dot of paint on the underside of the car and a green sticker on the outside of the box, then that gets a yes in this column. Then there's another column that's for weathered. It was pretty self-explanatory. If the car is weathered or not, that's a simple yes, no, just like the green dot. Then I have notes. So for some of these, like some of these Amtrak cars, I have like Superliner Phase 3, Horizon Phase 3, Superliner Phase 4, just saying what kind of a car it is and what the paint job is basically. And sometimes I have some that say part of a 2-car set or part of a 3-car set. If I've bought a set of cars that are individual models, but they came packaged together, I'll put something like that in there. So there's just different notes, whatever I need to write in there, just as kind of a reminder to myself. I have an era column just like I did in the Locomotive spreadsheet. And these are just a best guess. It's not necessarily super accurate, but it's just to give me an idea of where the cars belong. For my 1990s era layout, I think anything from the 70s onward is probably fine. But, you know, other than like cars that are too new and have the, you know, the reflector stripes on them that they put on nowadays, wouldn't necessarily work for that. But, you know, for the most part, most of my stuff will fit the 90s. Then I have a remaining effort, and a lot of these are going to say none in the rolling stock spreadsheet, because by and large, most of these cars are already detailed. The only thing they may need is, you know, coupler height adjustment or weathering or something like that, but they're not generally a big project like a locomotive might be. So there are some that need truck replacements or whatever, but I mean, for the most part, this is not as useful of a column in the rolling stock spreadsheet as it was in the Locomotive spreadsheet. And then over here, I have the type column, and this is kind of similar to that first column for model, except that this is always the generic term. So it's going to say passenger, covered hopper, tank car, box car, whatever it is. And I use this column to do aggregate information at the bottom of the spreadsheet, which we can look at in a little bit.
Then this spreadsheet also has a box column. These are mostly filled in the rolling stock one because I don't have very much rolling stock that isn't contained in a larger box. And this has really been helpful to like, now if I need to find something, I just go to the numbered box. And a few of these boxes have larger numbers. Like I started at 1 with the rolling stock and I got up to, I think, 47. Then I used, I think, 48 through 52 or something, or locomotives. But then I have these other boxes that are like a different kind of box, like one of those flat boxes with the little foam trays in it that you can put rolling stock in. And so I numbered those in the 100s. I don't have as many of those, but I picked a higher number because I would probably never get there with the file boxes. So I just wanted to keep them separate, and that way I know if it's one of those higher numbers, then it's a different kind of box. This one also has a keep column with a question mark. Most of these say keep. Some of them say maybe. Some of them say sell. Now that I've realized just how much rolling stock I've got, I may reevaluate that. And some of these may go into eBay eventually. But that's still to be determined. But one of the things about doing this is I've realized I have more rolling stock than I probably need, even for a large layout. So when I discovered that I had over 770 pieces of rolling stock, that really kind of blew my mind. I didn't have any clue that I had that much. I think I made a video a while back and I was about at 600, and I didn't think it was going to go much higher than that, and I was wrong. Anyway, as you can see, I've got like 144 finished. Don't have any in the ready to run. I don't think I used that designation for the freight cars. 51 works in progress, 570 new in the box, and then 7 counted as special. Those would be like Christmas train cars and things. Using the generic terms for these cars that I chose to, do, you could of course break this down differently if you wanted to, but I've got 16 auto racks, 213 box cars, and going down 185 covered hoppers. For a while, it was a race to see whether the covered hoppers or box cars were going to win, because I would have actually said covered hoppers because I really have a lot of those, but I didn't realize I had so many box cars. I did lump insulated box cars in with those, though. So, if I had broken those out, it might be a little different. But then again, there's different kinds of covered hoppers, too. I didn't differentiate between like pressure aid cars or air slides versus grain hoppers versus cement hoppers or anything like that. It's just all covered hoppers. And then, a bunch of other things. I actually was surprised that I had 79 passenger cars. I didn't realize that. And then over here, I had 138 cars that are weathered, 627 not weathered, 552 have been through my green dot inspection, which means that I've done the couplers and all that over 500 times. I think I said that in a recent video, too, that I wasn't exaggerating. Well, I'm not. Here's the data. And then once again, with like counting railroads, this was a little bit of a surprise in that SP is not necessarily the king unless you lump it in with Cotton Belt. I had 79 SP cars, 19 Cotton Belt cars, 33 Rio Grande, but I actually had 92 Santa Fe cars. So that was kind of interesting. Like I said, I wasn't really making as much use of the keep versus sell on this one, but I may need to reevaluate. Right now I have it marked as 757 keep. I don't think I need that many cars. So we may need to think about that one. And then just like with the locomotives, what am I actually spending my money on? Athearn, I think, is again the leader with 148. I've got 118 Atlas cars. And then I don't think any of these other ones really even... 75 Walthers. Okay, that's pretty high. Oh, and Exact Rail, 104 Exact Rails. So, and Intermountain is up there at 88. So those are kind of the heavyweights. The rest of them are all, I have a few of this and a few of that, but those are the big ones. So it's kind of interesting just to see all that information in one place at a glance. One of the most useful things about doing this whole inventory has been numbering the boxes. If you remember the old Box of the Month show, I would take a box and Nicole and I would go through it and look at everything that was inside it. And in the old days, I can't even tell you how many hours I must have spent rummaging through boxes looking for a particular piece of equipment. Now that I've been numbering the boxes as I do the inventory and keeping track of where everything is, if I want to find a particular piece of rolling stock or a particular locomotive, all I have to do is look it up in the spreadsheet
and figure out which box it's in and then go pull that box because they're all numbered. It's just so much easier.
I cloned the Nscale Locomotive Spreadsheet from the HO one, so not surprisingly, it's very similar. I did add a microtrains couplers column to let me know. It's just a simple yes, no, but that tells me if I've put microtrains couplers or if the model already had microtrains couplers on it, versus like Katos often come with their own and whatnot. Also, I put the steam engines up at the top instead of down the bottom for some reason, but other than that, or most of them anyway, other than that, it's very similar. And they also have box numbers. I numbered the Nscale boxes in the 90s because, again, the HO scale boxes wouldn't get up that high. So you can fit a lot more Nscale stuff in a box than you can HO. So almost all of these locomotives are in the same box, in fact. Anyway, I didn't realize I had this much Nscale either. So this is another thing I need to kind of evaluate how much of this I want to hang on to. And down the bottom, again, I did some aggregate information. So it's pretty similar to what's in the HO one. The main difference is that the distribution of like railroads is a little different. It's mostly Union Pacific and BNSF because most of my Nscale stuff is a little more modern. I still have like 11 steam locomotives, 68 diesels. The brand breakdown is also a little different. 59 are Katos. Nothing else even comes close to that. So that tells you what I like in Nscale.
All right, that's it. I hope you guys found this helpful. I know it's been really helpful to me, both to know how much stuff I have and also to know where to find things. With all the boxes numbered, that's a lot easier now. So if you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.